have come here to chew bubblegum and kick ass, and I'm all out of bubblegum.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another edition of Real Estate Realities with the Rebel Broker. My name's Robert Whitelaw, and I am the Rebel Broker, licensed real estate broker in the state of California and member of the National Association of Realtors. But please, don't hold that against me. We've got several interesting nuggets in the mix today. One of them fits in really nicely with some things we were talking about last week relating to baby boomers. So we'll tune into that. I think this is going to be a very interesting one because I think it really informs the other two items we were talking about before. Before we jump into that, though, let's hit the usual. If you'd like to get in contact with me, the best way to do that's through the website. Head on over to therebelbroker.com. From there, you can click on contacts in the menu bar to send along any ideas, suggestions, observations, or questions that you might have. You can really do anything from the site. There's a great little player in there for you to play shows. Probably the most complete archive of shows is available at the website. It might be a little bit weird given that we've changed where the show lives a couple of times. We're coming up on our 11th year. January will I still can't believe it when I say it out loud. January will be the 11th year, the anniversary of 11 years ago starting this show in one form or another. Not sure how I'm going to celebrate it. Maybe just an adult beverage. And we'll see how it goes from there. Now, other things you can do when you're at the site. I have added a button right there to the front page of the site. It's just below the player, right in the middle. Join the Rebel Underground is the name of the button. So if you'd like to join the Rebel Underground and get additional information, exclusive videos, content that only those folks will get, please feel free to head on over to the site and click that. While you're there, why not take a minute, or if you prefer, you can also text the word Rebel Broker, the number 44222. That's text the word Rebel Broker, all one word, to the number 44222, and you can join the Rebel Underground that way. And then the other great thing you can do while you're at the site is get yourself into the drawing for that $50 Amazon gift card. This is something we've been doing for a while now. I have no idea how much we've given away. I think the last time I threw out a number, it was about $600. I'm sure it's that or more at this point. But what the deal is, you go and you click the big red button that says take the survey to support the show. This button is at the very tippy top of the website at therebelbroker.com. Click it. Use the same email address both times you're asked. Answer a few general, demographic style questions, and you are done. Just make sure that you use the same email address both times and that you can be reached at that email address, because if you win the $50 Amazon gift card, that's how I'm going to not only verify that you've won it, but also that's how you're going to get it. It's going to arrive in your inbox via email. So make sure that's good information for you. Where are we? We are at November 8th. So how about if we have the cutoff be this Sunday by 5 p.m. And then at 5 p.m. on Sunday, I will randomly select one of the folks who has been so kind as to take the survey to support the show, and I will let them know that they've won. So Sunday by 5 p.m. Pacific time, because at 5:01 Pacific time, I am going to sit down and from the current pool of folks who've jumped through the hoops, I'm going to randomly pick someone, and then we're going to go ahead and make that person $50 richer. Thanks to all of those who've already done it. You are in the drawing. You aren't just kept in the drawing for the month that you actually apply. Anyone who did it 6 months ago or yesterday, doesn't matter. You will be in the mix again. So good luck to you. And for all of you who have won $50 already, congratulations. All right. So let's jump right in here, and I guess we'll go ahead and go to the kind of more meaty subject of today. For those of you who've been listening, if you're a brand new arrival to the show, you're probably going to want to go back and listen to the last couple of shows, because we've talked about some interesting issues that relate to folks from the baby boomer generation, folks that are over 50, that kind of thing. And we've talked about some interesting changes in how those folks are kind of moving through those years. You could also refer to them as empty nesters, right? maybe folks who are looking, and there's a lot of different motivators for folks that kind of hit that age group. It could be there's just too much room in the house now, right? Maybe they had a child or two or three, and they had bedrooms for everybody, and now they just don't need a 5-bedroom house. So they're going to downsize to a 3-bedroom house. Maybe it's because it's a 2-story house or even a 3-story house, and those stairs are getting more and more annoying to navigate, and they want to go with a ranch-style home. Now, these are all things that historically, with folks in that demographic, that would define their search for their downsizing home, or at least laterally sizing home. It was a very normal thing. And that has changed, and it's been changing, but we've seen some of the biggest changes recently. As I mentioned in last week's shows, we are now seeing them turning more towards renting, and they're renting in multifamilies, and they are doing it in both the suburban and urban environments, but more so in the suburban environments. But again, they're impacting both of those marketplaces. And the advice we were handing out at that point was, if you are a person who is buying multi-unit properties, and I think this would really while we are seeing increases in the multifamily world, I think that by inheritance, you will also see an increase in single-family residential rentals to folks in this age group. I think it's a natural thing. One of the reasons why I think it's a natural thing is, even if folks start off by renting in an apartment style setup or a condo, I think that also then kind of foretells of a bit of a shift after they've been in that environment for a while to potentially back to a single family residential home. Now, what do I have to back this up? Do I have any articles I can share with you? No. But I've done this. There was a period of time in my career a while back when I was serving folks more over in the Scotts Valley area, which is in Santa Cruz County, where this was not a horribly uncommon thing. We would have folks who bought into a little bit more of a tighter living situation, whether it was a condo or whether it was an apartment or whatever. And then after a year or two decided, you know what, I went a little too far, and they would want something bigger. And oftentimes that would be 55 and over communities. There's a very prominent mobile home community over in Scotts Valley, for instance, that fit that bill. And there was one year where folks thought they wanted to leave Montevallo. I had several people who left, and a couple of years later would call me back and say, hey, we want to move back. What's currently available in Montevallo? We could have a whole discussion about this. Montevallo actually ticks all the boxes that I think make it okay to buy in that community. The only limiting factor for me would be that it's a 55 and older community, so maybe renting would be difficult. And if I'm not mistaken, they actually have HOA rules against it. But in any event, you own the land. The HOA is run by the residents. So it's far more, it's like owning a single family residential home, to be honest. All these homes have been converted to real property. They are on foundations. None of them are on wheels. So a lot of if for personal stuff in terms of choices, whether or not I would make, whether or not I would purchase in an environment like that, it ticks the boxes that make it okay to consider. But I don't want to get too far into the weeds here. So the point being that given that these have become bigger elements of choice for folks in this particular demographic, it really spells an opportunity for people. It spells an opportunity for flippers potentially who are going to be buying single family residential homes that you may want to hold on to because you're still going to see folks who are in that demographic that are going to want to buy. Not as many as before. So maybe that means you're going to shift your strategies to what now was likely to be the bigger chunk of the pie. So the millennials are obviously supposed to be that big number. But also if you are someone who is doing the whole buy, fix, rent, then sell later mentality, it would make a lot of sense. If you're going to, because we're seeing this uptick in that demographic, it would make sense to be thoughtful relating to features that would attract those folks, things that who were in that part of their lives would be most interested in. So it could be, and these are what's great about most of these features is you're not going to alienate millennials by having these, right? If you consider mobility issues, if you consider having instead of putting in a lot of stairs to get up to that front door, maybe you've got a ramp solution that would make more sense for you. In the bathroom, maybe you're going to go ahead and have them install one of those big bars that you can hold on to get in and out of the tub. Just little things that aren't going to cost you a whole lot to do for the most part, but that could potentially really increase the pool of appeal for your property to an area that was going to include folks in this demographic. We talked about how this shift was over 30% increase in terms of the number of folks who are going to be looking to rent in the suburban area. And I think it was 20 something. Was it 19%, 20% increase in the number of folks in this demographic that are going to be looking to do that in the urban environment. So it represents an awful lot of shift in terms of those folks. So something to keep mindful of. And here is something else that's likely to play an interesting part in this. This is coming to us from the folks at Calculated Risk. And this one kind of blows me away because I'm not sure what they're seeing. And maybe we can kind of figure this out. The headline is the National Association of Home Builders, their builder confidence decreases for the 55 plus housing market in the third quarter. That's kind of interesting. The article quotes the National Association of Home Builders, and again, we're getting this from Calculated Risk, and as always, there will be a link to this story in the show notes for today's show. Quote, builder confidence in the single-family 55-plus housing market continued to be positive in the third quarter of 2017. 55-plus housing market index released last week. 55 positive simply means over 50, right? While the index measuring builder confidence in the single-family 55-plus market dropped from a reading of 66 in the second quarter to 59 this quarter, it's the 14th quarter in a row which the reading was above 50, the break-even point at which more respondents see conditions as good than poor. I find that interesting, and I'm not sure exactly what to take away from that other than for it to be an indicator that we're not going to see more new construction that focuses on this marketplace. So for those of you who are wanting to find that ultimate kind of crossover of circumstances that make it look good for you, this seems pretty good. If this is a market that you want to, and here's some examples, right? And I don't know if we've talked about Coeur d'Alene, Idaho, for instance. I'm sure most of you who've listened for a while realize that I am a person who is distracted by the shiny thing. I have had Chattanooga, Tennessee on my brain for now 2 years. Every once in a while, a community will pop up that just I like. Boise and Coeur d'Alene have popped up on my list, even to the point where I've actually gone and done quite a bit of research on Boise and have been kind of impressed with the job scenario there in terms of just a lot of high-tech jobs being in Boise. But anyway, that's for another show. This article goes on to say the effects of destructive hurricanes and a series of wildfires earlier this fall are likely reflected in this quarter's survey. I'm not sure I agree with that, which was conducted in September, said Dennis Cunningham, chairman of NAHB's 55-plus Housing Industry Council and president of Active West Builders in Coeur d'Alene, Idaho. Now, why is Coeur d'Alene a big deal? For those of you who don't know, Coeur d'Alene is a pretty attractive location for folks that are in this demographic. This is a place that folks like to go to retire. In fact, I sold someone's house earlier this year where that is exactly where they were going. And I have another client who is looking to put their property on the market in January. And again, their destination, Coeur d'Alene, Idaho, and they're going to be retiring. Let's see. He goes on to say, however, this is a temporary effect. Overall confidence remains high and builders continue to be optimistic about the 55 plus market in the long run. The decline in 55 plus single family index is consistent with slight softening of other measures of single family construction seen recently, driven by the effect of the natural disasters on top of ongoing issues with the supply of labor, lots, and some building materials. However, market conditions on balance remain favorable, and we expect gradual continued growth in the 55-plus housing sector. So this will be kind of interesting to see. If you look at the 55-plus single-family housing market index graph that's included with this, and I will also include this in my Pinterest page. So if you want to check that out, feel free to head on over to the Pinterest page to see what that is looking like. There is a flattening, and it's really been since 2014. We sort of peaked right around 2014, 2015. We had a couple of standout quarters since then, but really it's been flat. It really took a jump after 2011, and then sort of flattened out up here where it is now at the above 50 level. And of course, they don't show us all the numbers that came before the downturn. I'm sure the numbers were a lot better there. But I think this is very interesting. And when you mix it with this interest on the part of folks in that segment that are making these choices, well, then I start to ask myself, what is the primary motivation here? Is it because they're not seeing as many things that they would want? Because since the market is just so tight, they're going for that rental. I think it may be more of a financial decision. But no matter what the reasoning is, right? It's interesting to kind of sit down, maybe have a cup of coffee and chat about the motivations, the why. And sometimes you can draw a lot more out based on the whys. But in this case, we can just go with what we're seeing. This is what's actually happening. These are the decisions being made. And based on those, you can make better decisions about your investments. All right, folks, we're going to take a quick break right now, but don't go away. We'll be right back after this.
Are you ready to jump in and start your search for your first investment property? Maybe you've decided that it's time to own your own home, or maybe you're ready to sell your home and move on to something new. No matter what your goal is, the Rebel Broker can help. That's right, aside from hosting this show, I am also the owner, broker of Whitelaw & Sons Real Estate Services right here in Silicon Valley. With over 25 years experience serving Silicon Valley, Morgan Hill, San Martin, and Gilroy, I or one of my great agents can help you achieve your goals in real estate. So if you're ready to look into taking that next step towards achieving your real estate goals, point your browser at www.soldbyrobert.com. That's www.soldbyrobert.com and get in touch. Let me show you how I will earn your business and your respect. Again, that's www.soldbyrobert.com, or you can call me at 408-852-0525. California Bureau of Real Estate ID 00984-909.
Welcome back, everyone. We've been kind of running down with a little bit more data on that whole baby boomer sector of the market, sort of the 50, 55 and up. The argument we've been making now for a while has been that this could present a great opportunity for folks. And just one more interesting piece of the puzzle is this decrease in builder confidence as it relates to the 55 plus housing market. So keep that in mind. If we do see, if this ends up playing out as a shifting in priorities from really building things that are designed for 55 and over folks, I think that really puts more pressure on the things we've already talked about in terms of seeing these folks moving into these rental situations that we talked about last week. Also in the news as it relates to building, and this is something I always like to track because it gives you an idea of what's going on in the markets, and it's very much a what's going on now situation, and that's framing lumber prices. And if framing lumber prices tend to go up when compared to the same time last year, you can usually assume that means there's more construction going on. Now, that oftentimes the issues playing into that will go beyond the borders of the United States. There was a period of time there where we were seeing tons of lumber prices jumping without seeing a whole lot of construction here, primarily because of consumption on the part of China of lumber. So it's always important to keep that in your rearview mirror. I'll always be at least checking the corner to see if that's what's actually driving these things. But it doesn't seem like that's the case here. Let's see. Prices in 2007 are up solidly year over year and might exceed the housing bubble highs in the spring of 2018. Right now, random length prices are up 25% from a year ago, and CME futures are up about 45% year over year. There is a seasonal pattern for lumber prices. Prices frequently peak around May and bottom around October and November, although there is quite a bit of seasonal variability. But that's the reason why that we don't care about that is because when we report these numbers, when I report these numbers, we're going to do year on year. So in other words, we're not going to compare this month to last month because that's goofy. We want to compare the same time last year, the same time this year, because then you're at least given a frame of reference that is more independent of the seasonal changes, right? If I just reported you there was a huge drop in October or November of lumber prices, well, that might scare someone unless you realize, well, of course there is. We're into winter, so they're going to be buying less lumber as we need to step away from building potentially. So it's always good to do the year-on-year numbers for that particular number. All right, and finally, before we call it for today's show, I wanted to share with you the National House Price Index. Everything is nuts, right? We've talked about this. Everything just continues to go up. We had a 6.1 annual gain in August, up from 5.9% in the previous month in July. The 10-city composite annual increase came in at 5.3%, up from 5.2% the previous month. The 20-city composite posted a 5.9% year-over-year gain, up from 5.8% the previous month. According to this, Seattle, Las Vegas, San Diego reported the highest year-over-year gains among the 20 cities. In August, Seattle led the way with a 13.2% year-over-year price increase, followed by Las Vegas with an 8.6% increase and San Diego with a 7.8% increase. 9 cities reported greater price increases in the year ending August 2017 versus the year ending July 2017. 19 of the 20 cities reported increases in August, both before and after seasonal adjustment. Home price increases appear to be unstoppable, according to some of these folks who are looking at these numbers. Of course, we do know that home increases are not unstoppable. Anyone who lived through 2007 to 2009 knows this. It can stop like running into a brick wall, but we are absolutely in a situation where these numbers are just going nuts. I still subscribe to the idea that this has got to end at some point, which would normally result in at least a flattening for either an extended period of time or a decrease. And if we do see any of those big market shaking events, it would just make sense for these prices to drop. And we've covered an awful lot of different things that could push these items down. So over the course of the next few weeks, we're probably going to start to get, as we usually do at this time of year, we're going to start to get those projections of what to expect from 2018. So it'll be interesting to pull those experts out there, all the various resources, and see what they estimate. We'll see if they, in general, tend to think things are going to be great. Now, of course, we've also noted on this show in the past that optimism tends to be the rule of the day. What's interesting is we have seen articles that talk about a peak, talk about a bubble, talk about an expected decline. And in some cases, from some of the mainstream sources that are always pretty much trying to push this idea that everything's wonderful. So it'll be interesting to see what sort of reality check we get in these stats. So make sure to tune in for those, because I will absolutely be giving those the review they deserve and trying to get a rational review of what it is they're suggesting is going to come for us in 2018. Now, I am still of a mind that I'm going to move forward with my plans. We can talk on another show about what's going on with my plans. I'm right now only in a position where I'm debating the timing. As you know, I am a few months, not a few months, probably 4 to 6 months shy of being a year late in my plan. The goal originally was to sell my property in the first half of 2017. Now it looks like I'm going to sell it in the first half of either 2018 or sometime in the next couple of months. I'm not sure when I'm going to get it onto the market, frankly. A lot of other things have now sort of come into the picture in terms of timing. So that's, anyone's life is going to have those things kind of come into the picture. Since we've made it through October without my expectations coming true, and I realize most people don't like to mention more than once when they've made an error, but I called October as the month when we would likely look back and see that as when things started to decline. And we saw the exact opposite of that. We actually saw the most stable October on record. So clearly that wasn't in the cards. So that estimation was wrong. May still be in the cards, but my timing has clearly not proven to be correct. So with that having happened, it actually gives me a little bit of confidence that I've got enough leeway here that I can effectively execute my plan without really losing anything by selling in that first part of 2018. And in fact, all I've done is had time go by where home prices have gone up. So it actually has worked out fairly well for me. It would only be not working out well for me if my plan was to sell and then immediately buy a place in a market where everything's been rising, right? And if you're rising all at the same level, then it's kind of a wash when you get right down to it. But I'm not going to be doing that. The plan is to hold on to those funds and use them for other wiser investments. All right, folks, I do hope that you have gotten some value out of today's show. The goal is always to leave you with far more value in stuff to think about, things to consider, than in the time you spent listening to the show. And I absolutely hope we've delivered on that today. Thanks again for listening. I'll talk to y'all next time.